Black millionaire is humiliated in luxury hotel, but nobody imagine he is the owner. A black man arrives at a luxury hotel in New York. His name is Ethan Carter, but he doesn't look like the typical millionaire people imagine. Wearing a simple t-shirt, jeans and sneakers, Ethan maintains a casual and relaxed appearance, almost as if he were an ordinary tourist. What others don't know is that he is a millionaire investor with influence in the business world and owner of several prestigious properties, including the very hotel he is about to enter. Before we continue, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss this incredible story. Comment from which city you are watching and share your thoughts. Judgments like this can change lives. And of course, watch until the end to discover the twist that no one expected. Back to the plot, Ethan walks through the hotel lobby with a calm air until he reaches the reception desk. On the other side, the receptionist Brian, a young, well-dressed man, watches him with a suspicious expression. For Brian, Ethan does not have the profile of the guests who usually frequent the place. Instead of greeting him politely, Brian just stares at him with a slight look of disdain. With a cold and distant tone, he asks Ethan if he really wants to stay there, insinuating that perhaps he had the wrong place. Remaining calm, Ethan confirms that he wants a room. He knows that by his appearance, he is not the type of guest Brian expects to see, but he remains impassive. Brian, on the other hand, continues to behave hostilely, as if trying to intimidate him. In an attempt to discourage him, he makes a point of highlighting that the hotel's daily rates are high, insinuating that they may not be affordable for everyone. Upon realizing that Ethan is unfazed, Brian increases the tone of his arrogance. He questions whether Ethan is prepared to deal with hotel standards and continues to speak in a condescending manner, not realizing that he is humiliating someone far beyond his own hierarchy. Ethan, however, keeps a slight smile on his face, carefully watching every word said. Around, other employees begin to notice the scene and whisper discreetly, but no one intervenes. Most of them share Brian's subtle prejudice, considering Ethan to be out of place in that luxurious place. Little do they know that they are in front of the true owner of that hotel, the man who could change the fate of everyone there with a simple decision. The scene is filled with tension and embarrassment, but Ethan chooses to remain silent, observing how far Brian would go with his hostile attitudes. He knows that that prejudice is not just based on appearance, but on something deeper. Brian's behavior triggers in Ethan a silent desire for justice, something he has never felt so intensely. Doubt and mystery settle in the air. Will Ethan reveal his true identity at that moment, or will he move forward, maintaining the suspense and allowing those around him to underestimate him even further? What Brian and the other employees don't realize is that each of their actions will have consequences that will change their lives forever. The hotel where the story unfolds is the Grand Windsor, one of the most prestigious establishments in New York. Situated in a historic building, the hotel is known for its luxury and for attracting celebrities, influential executives and millionaires. Every detail of the space, from the marble floor to the crystal chandeliers, is designed to convey exclusivity and sophistication. But for those who truly know the essence of Grand Windsor, they know that behind all the opulence is a history of strong values and respect for guests, something Ethan Carter has always valued. Ethan Carter, the protagonist, is a man who lived his life surrounded by achievements, but chose to maintain a discreet and simple profile. He grew up in a modest neighborhood, where he learned from an early age the importance of staying connected with people and their realities. His fortune was built through years of hard work and smart investments. Today, he owns several businesses. But for him, the true value lies in how he treats others and in providing a service that really makes a difference in people's lives. This perspective made him invest in the Grand Windsor, a hotel where his values of respect and equality are, or should be, a priority. On the other hand, the antagonist, Brian, is a figure who personifies judgment and superficiality. Brian is in his mid-30s, ambitious, but believes his role at the Grand Windsor is only to serve customers who fit his luxury stereotype. He is an educated but short-sighted young man who believes that appearance and status are what define a person's worth. Even though he's just a receptionist, his attitude makes him feel superior and like he owns the place. The kind of behavior Ethan tries to eliminate from his companies. For Brian, anyone who doesn't look rich deserves to be treated with suspicion, as if they don't measure up to the environment. In addition to Brian, other employees make up the Grand Windsor staff. Among them is Amanda, an attendant who observes the interaction between Ethan and Brian with some discomfort. Amanda is a young, empathetic woman who realizes that there is something special about Ethan, even if he doesn't fit the superficial standards that Brian values. She tries at times to interrupt Brian's actions, but is interrupted by him, who believes he is in control. Amanda's presence in the plot provides a counterpoint to Brian's prejudice and shows that there are still people in the environment who understand the true value of the Grand Windsor. Ultimately, the hotel reflects Ethan's vision in a way that goes beyond the physical structure. He envisioned the Grand Windsor as a space where anyone, regardless of appearance or status, could feel welcome. Ethan, when walking through the lobby and observing the service, notices how small behaviors reflect the soul of a company. And that's exactly why he decides not to reveal his identity right away, choosing to experience the place as a regular customer to assess whether his values are being practiced there. The Grand Windsor's social scene intensifies the conflict between what the hotel should represent and what, in practice, some employees like Brian end up showing by treating guests with distrust and prejudice. Ethan reflects on this and realizes that perhaps it is time to bring about a change. In his observations, he sees not just a place of luxury, but also a space where appearances have the power to influence every interaction. As time passes, Ethan is treated with a mixture of disregard and hostility by Brian, who continues his attempt to inferiorize him. Amanda, on the other hand, feels increasingly uncomfortable with the situation and discreetly tries to show respect to Ethan, even without knowing his identity. This contrast between Brian and Amanda's attitudes creates increasing tension and reveals the character's true nature. At this point in the story, the Grand Windsor becomes more than a setting. It becomes a reflection of Ethan's intentions and the challenges he faces in maintaining respect and inclusion in such an exclusive environment. Every interaction, every gesture, and every word spoken is a barometer of the issues that Ethan considers fundamental. Soon, he will know if it is possible to fix what is broken in the place he built himself. After spending a few days at the Grand Windsor as a guest, Ethan begins to experience Brian's contempt more and more intensely. The receptionist observes him suspiciously, analyzing every detail of his behavior and appearance, as if he were looking for some flaw that would justify his prejudiced opinion. Brian, convinced that Ethan is someone unimportant, makes a point of making his stay uncomfortable, sometimes ignoring simple requests, sometimes treating him with a tone of condescension. The situation reaches a critical point when Ethan, who normally opts for discreet and comfortable clothes, tries to book one of the hotel's most luxurious restaurants. Brian, assuming that Ethan could never afford the experience, turns him down with a lame excuse, rudely suggesting that he try something more affordable. The humiliation is palpable, and other guests begin to notice the special treatment that Ethan receives, although no one dares to interfere, just observing the scene from afar. While Brian intensifies his actions, Ethan remains calm, mentally recording every detail and reflection that this experience brings to him. As much as pride bothers him, he knows that as an owner, he needs to fully understand the flaws in the hotel's service culture for any corrections to be effective. Ethan closely watches how other employees interact with him and other customers, looking for patterns and behaviors that reveal the extent to which Brian's prejudice is an isolated problem or part of a structural flaw. In a moment of pause, Ethan shares a few words with Amanda, the empathetic attendant, who approaches him with a genuine smile. She mentions that some clients, including celebrities, are treated with disproportionate privileges and explains how this creates an exclusionary environment. She admits to feeling uncomfortable with Brian's treatment, but confesses that she fears repercussions for intervening. Ethan, in turn, sees in Amanda a remnant of the values he always wanted for Grand Windsor, and his conversation with her inspires him to act strategically. The conflict worsens when an important hotel event approaches. Ethan decides to attend the event like any other guest, a perfect time to evaluate the employee's behavior in a high-pressure situation. The celebration features renowned business people, celebrities, and investors, and Brian is determined to ensure that Ethan remains invisible during the party. He imposes restrictions on Ethan's access to services, even asking him to stay away from busy areas, suggesting that some events are reserved for special guests. At this point, Brian openly exposes his contempt for Ethan, making acidic comments and insisting that he should know his place. Brian sees the event as an opportunity to reinforce his view that the Grand Windsor is only for those who deserve to be there, and anyone who deviates from that standard is not welcome. It's a provocation that puts Ethan's self-control to the test, but he decides not to react. Not yet. Throughout the event, other guests, including Amanda, observe the interactions and begin to see Brian's prejudice more clearly. Amanda, trying to show support, offers Ethan a drink and apologizes for his colleague's behavior, discreetly expressing her displeasure with the situation. Brian, upon seeing the gesture, reprimands Amanda in front of Ethan, threatening that employees who do not adapt to the hotel's standards can look for another occupation. Amanda is visibly shaken, but Ethan once again maintains his composure, even though he is now completely certain that drastic measures need to be taken. Seeing what is happening around him, Ethan begins to reflect on the true impact of prejudice and how it can erode the foundations of any place, regardless of its reputation. He realizes that Brian's prejudice, far from being a personal issue, is a symptom of a culture that allows superficial judgments to define people's worth. As the event progresses, a decision forms in Ethan's mind. He sees the party as an opportunity to expose Brian's deep-rooted prejudice in front of everyone, but chooses to do so in a way that makes the impact lasting. At the end of the event, he asks the hotel manager for a private meeting to discuss some observations about service. Brian, upon noticing the movement, follows the manager to the meeting room, certain that Ethan will be confronted and finally kicked out of the hotel. The moment of revelation is near, but before any action is taken, Ethan focuses on gathering all the information and ensuring that what happens next will definitively change the culture of Grand Windsor. He does not seek personal revenge, but rather a transformation that benefits everyone who works and stays there. In his discreet conversations with Amanda and other employees, Ethan gains a clear picture of the hotel's dynamics, identifying those who share his vision of inclusion and respect. Tensions at the Grand Windsor rise as Brian's treatment continues to impact not only Ethan, but also other employees and guests. One of the important subplots that emerges is Amanda's dilemma, who finds herself torn between doing what is right and preserving her job. She knows that reporting Brian's behavior could harm her career, but she increasingly feels that her conscience does not allow her to remain silent. Amanda, who joined Grand Windsor with dreams of building a career in hospitality, sees Brian's behavior as a test of her values. Amanda also has a close relationship with a group of hotel employees who share her vision and dissatisfaction. They form a circle of support and, little by little, begin to share stories of situations in which Brian acted in a disrespectful or prejudiced manner towards other customers who, in his view, did not match the hotel's standards. These reports range from minor humiliations to episodes of clear discrimination, but everyone is reluctant to report it for fear of losing their job. Ethan, attentive to these conversations, realizes that the problem is deeper than he imagined. In another layer of the story, the hotel manager, Mr. Thompson, who does not know Ethan's true identity, begins to notice the discomfort among the team and the tension that arises whenever Brian enters the scene. Thompson does not directly interfere, believing that Brian is just trying to maintain the standard of the hotel. He is a man who values his reputation and believes that Brian, by being demanding, is protecting the Grand Windsor name. This view makes him complacent but also vulnerable, as he is based on a misperception that discretion is the same as excellence. Meanwhile, Ethan begins to reflect on the impact of this toxic environment on employee morale and the hotel's own image. He realizes that although he created the Grand Windsor with the aim of offering accessible luxury to everyone, a culture of exclusion has been established, taking away the essence of the original proposal. Each time Amanda and the other employees share their stories, he becomes more determined to act, knowing that the change must be deeper and more structural. The plot becomes even more complicated when Ethan discovers that an important awards event is about to take place at the hotel. This event attracts influential investors and celebrities, many of whom Ethan knows personally. The irony of having these important figures around him while he's treated with contempt by the very hotel he founded makes the situation even more emblematic. Ethan decides to take advantage of this opportunity to reveal the truth, but realizes that he needs the support of the employees who have been the target of Brian's prejudice. He wants his action to be a show of solidarity with those who, like him, have been unfairly judged. The relationship between Ethan and Amanda deepens as she, without knowing who he really is, begins to trust him and share her most sincere thoughts about the hotel and its vision for the future. In a post-shift conversation, Amanda talks about how much she wanted Grand Windsor to be a place where everyone felt respected and welcomed. She admits that she has thought about quitting several times, but feels there is still hope for change, especially when Ethan is undeterred. Little does she know that her openness and idealism are exactly what Ethan plans to preserve at the hotel after the revelation. By exploring the complexity of each character and their interactions, the narrative adds layers of depth and emotion to the plot. Brian, increasingly blinded by his own arrogance, begins to notice that Ethan is gaining favor with Amanda and other employees, which makes him uncomfortable. He feels like he is losing control of the situation, but his response is to escalate the hostile treatment, believing that this is the only way to establish order. Brian, however, ignores that, with each prejudiced attitude, he is paving the way for his own downfall. For Ethan, the upcoming event represents the perfect opportunity to expose what really goes on behind the scenes at the Grand Windsor, while also providing a space for Amanda and the other employees to voice their opinions. He knows that by giving voice to those who have been silenced, he will achieve lasting change, returning the Grand Windsor to being a symbol of inclusive hospitality. Thus he begins to plan a speech for the event, which he intends to give at the end of the awards ceremony, with the intention of surprising not only the employees, but also the investors and celebrities present. The day of the awards event finally arrives at the Grand Windsor, and the hotel is packed with influential figures, celebrities and important investors, all hoping for a luxurious and memorable night. The environment is impeccable, with every detail carefully prepared to impress. However, behind the scenes, Ethan is calm but deeply determined to reveal his identity and expose Brian's discriminatory attitudes. He knows it will not be an ordinary night, and that his decision will have both personal and professional repercussions. But he also understands that it is the only way to restore the inclusive essence he envisioned for the Grand Windsor. The event begins with all guests gathered in the main hall. Brian, as usual, is on his best behavior, greeting the most important guests and making sure everything is perfectly up to the hotel's standard. He barely notices Ethan, believing that the poorly dressed customer was treated appropriately throughout his stay. The contempt with which he continues to treat Ethan, including ignoring his presence at the event, only fuels Ethan's resolve to make the revelation in an impactful way. At one point during the night, Brian watches from afar as Amanda approaches Ethan and exchanges a few words with him. Uncomfortable with the interaction, he goes to the two and, in a low but firm tone, reprimands Amanda for paying too much attention to a client who doesn't add to the hotel. He makes it clear that Amanda should be focused on serving the most prestigious guests and insinuates that Ethan is being a burden on the team. Ethan remains silent, listening to Brian's every word patiently, but with the decision that it would be the last humiliating comment he would endure that night. Finally, the turning point arrives when Ethan heads to the stage in the main hall for his long-awaited speech. With a microphone in hand and all eyes fixed on him, he begins by thanking his guests for being there to celebrate the hospitality and luxury of the Grand Windsor. At that moment, Brian, still not understanding what is happening, approaches with a perplexed expression. Amanda and the other employees watch curiously, not knowing what to expect. But something in Ethan's posture indicates that a big revelation is about to come. Ethan, with surprising calm, begins to share a story about the creation of the Grand Windsor. He describes how the hotel was designed to be a place where anyone, regardless of their appearance or background, could feel valued and welcome. As he talks, Brian and other hotel managers begin to realize the truth. Ethan is not just a guest, but the founder of the Grand Windsor himself. The murmur among the guests grows, while Brian tries to hide the panic that grips him when he realizes that he treated the hotel owner himself in a prejudiced and humiliating way. The revelation is accompanied by a detailed description of the episodes of discrimination that Ethan experienced during his stay. But he does not name names or make direct accusations, preferring to maintain the dignity of his employees. Instead, he uses his experiences to illustrate how prejudiced attitudes can emerge anywhere, even in a luxury space. He looks directly at Brian as he talks about respect and empathy, making it clear that his message is personal, but at the same time universal. At that moment, Amanda, who until then had been paralyzed by surprise, feels a wave of relief and gratitude. She understands that Ethan chose the path of inclusion and that by exposing what he experienced, he is opening space so that employees like her, who were devalued by Brian, can be heard. The other employees, who have often suffered from Brian's disregard, begin to murmur amongst themselves, feeling a mixture of surprise and hope that things might finally change. Brian, completely bewildered, tries to maintain his composure, but knows he is being exposed in front of everyone. He tries to find a way out, justifying that his role was to maintain the hotel's standards. But Ethan quickly counters, highlighting that discrimination is not part of any quality standard. Ethan emphasizes that true luxury is treating everyone with dignity and respect, regardless of appearance or prejudice. With the audience in total silence, Ethan ends his speech with a commitment. The Grand Windsor will undergo a redesign to ensure that inclusion and respect are core values in all areas of the hotel. He announces that new policies will be implemented and that all staff will undergo training to reinforce these principles. The impact of his words is immediate, and the audience applauds, including several celebrities and investors in attendance who are impressed by Ethan's stance and his vision for the future of Grand Windsor. At this point, Brian realizes that his time at the hotel has come to an end. Without needing to say a word, he understands that he is dismissed and leaves the room in silence, avoiding facing Ethan or anyone present. His departure is symbolic, marking the end of an era of discrimination and the beginning of a new phase for Grand Windsor. Alongside Amanda and the other employees, Ethan watches Brian leave, feeling a quiet but deep satisfaction. The turning point brought an essential turnaround, not only for the hotel, but for everyone who was victims of prejudiced attitudes. Ethan turned a humiliating situation into an opportunity for change, and in doing so, reaffirmed his commitment to a fairer future for everyone. After Brian's departure, the atmosphere at Grand Windsor changes drastically. The environment, previously marked by suspicious looks and prejudiced attitudes, now breathes an air of renewal and relief. The employees, inspired by Ethan's attitude, begin to feel more valued and respected, understanding that the hotel owner genuinely cares about the well-being of each one. Amanda especially feels empowered and finally recognized for her hard work and dedication. She now looks at Ethan with admiration, knowing that he faced prejudice head-on to bring about meaningful transformation. However, the repercussions of Ethan's speech are not limited to the halls of the Grand Windsor. In the following days, the story of the revelation spreads quickly through the media, attracting national attention. The headlines highlight the act of discrimination suffered by the hotel owner himself and the dignified way in which he reacted. This backlash generates a wave of public support for Ethan and the Grand Windsor, but it also puts pressure on the hotel to deliver on its promise of significant changes to its organizational culture. Ethan decides to act quickly to ensure the change is real and visible to everyone. He calls a meeting with all hotel employees, from the cleaning staff to administration, and communicates his plan to implement new inclusion and respect policies. He also mentions that everyone will undergo diversity and inclusion awareness training, reinforcing that the objective is to create an environment where everyone feels safe and valued. This gesture is met with enthusiasm and applause, especially by team members who, like Amanda, have suffered from Brian's discriminatory treatment. At the same time, Ethan receives messages of support from several investors and business partners who praise his courage and integrity. Some of them, inspired by Ethan's stance, are also beginning to review their own management practices, questioning whether they are doing enough to promote inclusion and combat prejudice in their companies. This positive response reinforces Ethan's commitment to continuing to lead ethically and respectfully, and he feels that his decision to expose Brian's actions was not only correct, but necessary to inspire broader change. However, it is not just praise that comes with the repercussion of the story. Brian, now the former manager of the Grand Windsor, looks for ways to justify his behavior, trying to present himself as the victim of a misunderstanding. He tries to spread rumors that Ethan exaggerated the situation to attract media attention. However, these attempts quickly lose steam as most of the employees are willing to share their own experiences of unfair treatment under Brian's leadership, corroborating Ethan's stance. In a symbolic gesture, Ethan decides to promote Amanda to customer service manager, trusting that she will be able to lead with empathy and respect. The news is enthusiastically received by the entire team, and an emotional Amanda promises Ethan that she will do everything in her power to ensure that the Grand Windsor is a place where every person feels welcomed and respected. This promotion also serves as a clear example that, in the hotel's new management model, inclusive attitudes and commitment to everyone's well-being are truly valued. As a result of the hotel's new stance, the Grand Windsor begins to attract an even more diverse audience, including customers who identify with the message of respect and inclusion promoted by Ethan. The hotel gains a renewed reputation, not just as a place of luxury, but as an establishment committed to human dignity. The impact of this change is so profound that other hotels in the region are also beginning to review their service policies, inspired by the transformation that took place at the Grand Windsor. In this context, Ethan reflects on how an act of discrimination could have destroyed the hotel's image if he had reacted impulsively or aggressively. Instead, he used the experience to bring about significant change, both within the hotel and in the mindset of employees and customers. The transformation of the Grand Windsor is now seen as an example that true luxury is not just in material wealth, but in the way each person is treated and welcomed. As the Grand Windsor adjusts to new inclusive guidelines and policies, Ethan observes a visible transformation among the staff and the hotel's atmosphere. The team, which previously acted with a certain tension, now demonstrates enthusiasm and renewed commitment. Amanda, who was recently promoted to customer service manager, has been instrumental in this process, leading with empathy and building a respectful relationship with her colleagues. Ethan sees that the change is not just structural, it is an evolution in the mindset and hearts of those who work alongside you. Ethan, too, goes through a process of self-discovery and growth. He understands that although he has always believed in equality and respect, this experience forced him to face prejudice in a very personal way. He reflects on how, even though he had power and influence, he faced discrimination for something that should never have been a reason for judgment: his skin color. This experience reinforces its commitment to using its position not only to generate profits, but to promote genuine social transformation. Amanda, in turn, feels a great responsibility in her new position. She is dedicated to being a present and accessible leader for the team, listening to each person's concerns and ensuring that everyone feels valued. Her personal experience, combined with Ethan's trust, drives her to overcome her own limits. She realizes she has the opportunity to create an environment where each team member feels they can grow without fear of judgment or discrimination. This role transforms her profoundly, and she feels more fulfilled than ever. The employees, inspired by Amanda's promotion and Ethan's example, also begin to grow and develop within Grand Windsor. The young receptionist, who witnessed discrimination against Ethan on his first day, now works with more purpose and dedication, inspired by Amanda and the inclusive leadership she represents. He feels valued and realizes that the work environment has changed for the better. At the same time, Ethan implements a series of actions to reinforce everyone's growth. It establishes training and development programs for employees, encouraging them to learn new skills and explore their talents. In addition, it organizes awareness and inclusion awareness sessions, bringing speakers who share overcoming stories and discuss the importance of empathy and respect in the workplace. Ethan's intention is clear. He wants Grand Windsor to be an example of progress and inclusion, not only in the hotel sector, but throughout the business community. This phase of overcoming is accompanied by a series of challenges. Adapting to new policies requires dedication, especially from employees who were previously used to a less inclusive and rigid environment. However, Ethan and Amanda deal with these difficulties firmly, constantly remembering the theme of the importance of respect and commitment to hotel values. Over time, these challenges are overcome, and Grand Windsor emerges as a place where everyone, regardless of their origins, feels welcome and valued. The transformation of the Grand Windsor begins to be recognized beyond the walls of the hotel. Frequent customers realize the difference in the atmosphere and praise the new stance of the team. Hotel reviews on reserve platforms also reflect this change, with guests commenting on the welcoming environment and the respectful treatment they received. This positive return from customers is a concrete proof that the change promoted by Ethan not only benefited employees, but also improved the experience of everyone passing through Grand Windsor. For Ethan, this is the confirmation that it is on the right track. He realizes that his effort to turn the hotel into an inclusive and welcoming environment is making a real difference in people's lives. He feels a deep pride to see that his decision not only reacts to prejudice, but to use it as a catalyst for a positive change is bringing lasting results. The hotel is no longer just a material luxury symbol, but of values and respect. Ethan's growth also reflects on his posture outside the Grand Windsor. He begins to attend events and conferences on inclusion in the business sector, sharing his experience and encouraging other leaders to follow the same path. He believes his story can inspire other entrepreneurs to rethink the way they treat their employees and customers, regardless of their origins. Ethan's view goes beyond financial success. He seeks to positively impact society as a whole. Amanda, on the other hand, feels empowered like never before. Her waitress trajectory. The manager is a living proof that the true value of a person does not reside in her starting position, but in her character and growth potential. She uses her position to continue inspiring the team, and her relationship with Ethan evolves into a partnership of trust and mutual respect. The two work together to ensure that the Grand Windsor remains a place where everyone feels valued. With the growing success of the Grand Windsor under the new leadership of Ethan and Amanda, the hotel becomes an admired example in the city, gaining recognition for both its luxury and inclusive environment. Ethan feels he is ready to take the next step and organize a great reception to formally present the new positioning of Grand Windsor, showing the public how much the hotel has changed since it took a more inclusive stance. This event is an opportunity not only to celebrate the achievements, but also to consolidate Grand Windsor's legacy as a symbol of respect and inclusion. While Ethan and Amanda work in preparations, an unexpected challenge arises. The news about the hotel's new posture reaches the former Grand Windsor shareholders, who hold a minority part of the actions. Although not involved in daily management, these shareholders have strong influence and concerns, aimed mainly at the hotel's profit and exclusivity image. They express objections regarding change, claiming that the new positioning can ward off traditional customers and thus affect profits. This opposition from shareholders creates new tension as they threaten to sell their actions to other investors with the intention of recovering control of the Grand Windsor. Ethan realizes that he needs to make an important decision to protect the future of the hotel. With the reception event approaching, he decides to call a meeting with shareholders to present the results of the changes and discuss future plans. He prepares to defend the new positioning of the Grand Windsor, carrying customer satisfaction data, positive feedback, and even a study of how the new hotel philosophy has attracted new customers and loyalized old. Ethan firmly believes that the positive impact on people and the workplace is the biggest victory for Grand Windsor, and intends to use this vision to convince shareholders. Amanda, who has been a support pillar for Ethan, also gets involved in preparing for the meeting and the event. It has been the voice of many of the employees, defending the inclusive values Ethan implemented. However, the pressure is high, and she fears that shareholders try to distort the hotel to a more elitist direction, which would hurt the values she has fought. The partnership and confidence between Ethan and Amanda become even stronger, and they support each other to face shareholders' pressure and maintain the integrity of the hotel. Meanwhile, rumors about the possible control of former shareholders begin to circulate between the hotel team. Employees, many of whom have gone through a growth process and deeply identify with the new inclusive environment, begin to show concern. They fear that if shareholders recover control, all changes and improvements can be reversed. Ethan, sensitive to the impact these rumors can have, calls a meeting with employees to reassure them. It ensures that it will do anything within your reach to keep the hotel as a safe and respectful place for everyone. On the day of the reception event, the hotel is impeccable and the atmosphere is celebrating. Influential customers, partners, and even journalists attend to check out the new phase of Grand Windsor. The night begins with speeches by Amanda and other employees who share their personal stories and how the hotel has positively impacted their lives. The words are sincere and exciting, and the audience is visibly touched by the transformation that Grand Windsor represents for each of them. Ethan, however, is aware that this celebration can be interrupted by shareholders who are present and attentive to everything. Tension grows when one of the shareholders addresses Ethan, questioning him directly on the economic viability of the hotel's inclusive philosophy and implying that the new direction can compromise the brand's prestige. Ethan, maintaining calm, explains the importance of turning the hotel into a welcoming and respectful environment for everyone, and reinforces that profit and exclusivity should not be based on discrimination, but on a quality service and an affordable and dignified luxury experience for everyone. The event advances, but the tension climate is in the air. Amanda approaches Ethan and discreetly gives her a document she had received earlier, an offer so that he can acquire the actions of disgruntled shareholders and ensure the hotel's majority control. The proposal is a significant financial sacrifice, but at the same time, it represents the chance that Ethan protects everything for what he worked, eliminating the possibility of reversing Grand Windsor's achievements. The great day of the Grand Windsor reception finally arrived, and the environment is electrically loaded with expectations. The event room is a separate show, adorned with bright lights and lush floral arrangements. The guests, from various origins and stories, circulate excitedly, discussing the innovations that the hotel brought and sharing their personal experiences. However, between smiles and conversations, the tension is palpable. Shareholders, led by Robert, one of the most influential, observe each movement of Ethan and Amanda with a critical expression. Robert does not miss the opportunity to position himself, suggesting that the hotel has lost its essence of exclusivity. At the center of the event, Ethan prepares for his speech. He knows this is the decisive moment, not only for the hotel but also to himself. With the microphone in hand, he feels the weight of responsibility. Instead of being intimidated, he decides to share his vision of what Grand Windsor represents now. He talks about the importance of inclusion and how this not only enriches guests' experience, but also turns the hotel into a true home to everyone, where each is treated with dignity and respect. While Ethan introduces himself, he mentions stories of employees who have overcome personal and professional challenges, noting how the new hotel philosophy impacted their lives. The audience, which was initially divided, begins to unite in support of Ethan, and the atmosphere changes. He talks about future plans, such as a youth bag program for needy communities and the creation of an advisory board that will include community members. Ethan's passion and sincerity resonate with those present, and many begin to applaud. However, in the middle of the speech, Robert gets up and interrupts Ethan. With a dismissal, he questions Ethan's ability to manage the hotel. It causes, implying that the success of the Grand Windsor is just a temporary phase, and that without a return to the old mode of operation, profits cannot be guaranteed. Robert's words echo, and the tension in the air is almost palpable. Ethan feels the pressure, but is not shaken. He decides to face Robert directly. With a firm look, Ethan replies, "Success is not only measured by numbers or the amount of stars we have. The success of the Grand Windsor is in the transformation we can provide for each guest and each employee. It is not exclusive, but to create a space where everyone feels welcome." The audience reacts with enthusiastic applause, and the atmosphere begins to warm up even more. It is at this moment that Ethan realizes that, regardless of the result of the meeting with the shareholders, he has already gained something much greater: the confidence and respect of those who really matter. Robert, realizing that the tide is changing, tries to appeal to the fear of the guests. He raises the possibility that the Grand Windsor, under Ethan's leadership, could end up compromising the hotel's reputation and, consequently, the financial security of all who are there. "How can we trust a man who doesn't know what to keep the elite satisfied?" he asks, aiming Ethan. This attack causes murmurs among the guests, but Ethan, determined, decides to stay firm. "I understand what you are saying, Robert, but what I see here tonight is a new elite, an elite that values diversity and respect above all. Times have changed, and those who refuse to adapt will be behind it," says Ethan with conviction. His voice is powerful and resonant, and he feels the public's energy solidifying beside him. Meanwhile, tension reaches undeniable climax. Shareholders are agitated, whispering with each other, And Robert, frustrated, tries to drag the discussion to a more personal field, attacking not only Ethan's ideas, but also his own trajectory. However, what he doesn't know is that the hotel staff and guests have come together in support of Ethan. An employee gets up and shares his story of how the hotel's new environment changed his life, touching everyone's hearts in the room. This causes a wave of support, and other employees come together, reporting how the new hotel philosophy has brought positive changes to their lives. The climate of reception becomes a true celebration of diversity and inclusion. The words of support grow in intensity, and the audience gets up, applauding enthusiastically. With this, Ethan realizes that he is finally being heard. The reception, which began with a tense climate, now becomes a testimony of unity and hope. But the battle is not over yet. Robert, determined not to lose, approaches Ethan again, this time in a more subtle tone. He suggests that if Ethan decides to continue with his inclusive vision, he may lose investor support, including himself. The threat of a turnaround in the finance of the hotel. At this moment, Ethan has to make a decision. He needs to choose between conforming to expectations of the old mode of operation or fighting for what he believes. With courage, Ethan responds to Robert, "If you decide not to support us, I will have to move on without you. Grand Windsor is more than just a hotel. It is a legacy that my team and I are building, and I won't give up on this for fear of an opposite opinion." This moment is decisive. Ethan's words not only resonate among the guests, but they also leave Robert silent. The climax of history approaches its resolution. At the end of the speech, Ethan invites all present to join him in the celebration dance, symbolizing the union and the future they are building together. To the sound of a vibrant song, he extends his hand to Amanda, and together they dance in the center of the room, surrounded by a crowd of supporters. The night ends with applause and smiles, but Ethan knows the battle is not over yet. Control of the Grand Windsor may be at stake, but right now he feels stronger and more determined than ever, fighting for what he believes. The true transformation of the hotel and the people who are part of it is just beginning, and he is willing to fight for this cause. With a new horizon forming, Ethan knows that the journey is far from over. But he is also sure that regardless of challenges, the Grand Windsor will become a headlight of inclusion and respect in the world of hospitality. The reception at Grand Windsor. He became a milestone not only for Ethan, but also for all who participated in that memorable night. The applause resonated in the air, and the atmosphere of celebration and hope still hung over the hotel. With the unanimous support of staff, guests, and new allies, Ethan realized that he had gained something much larger than simply avoiding Robert's opposition. He had rekindled the flame of what Grand Windsor represented, a warm, diverse space that reflected the true essence of the community. After the reception, Ethan meets with his team to discuss the next steps. He feels responsibility weighing on his shoulders, but now, with the support of his employees and the community, he feels more skilled than ever. Amanda, by her side, points out that the event was not just a success, but a clear statement that the new direction of the hotel was, in fact, aligned with what the guests wanted. "People are looking forward to change, Ethan," she says, "and we have the opportunity to lead this transformation." With this renewed energy, Ethan undertakes to implement the ideas discussed during the reception, such as the scholarship program and the inclusion of various voices in the management of the hotel. He also decides to create a consultative committee formed by community members, ensuring that everyone's perspectives and needs are considered in future decisions. He firmly believes that Grand Windsor's true success is not only measured in profits, but on the ability to positively impact people's lives. Meanwhile, Robert and the other shareholders who initially opposed Ethan are now in a delicate position. Public pressure and growing support for the new management model forces Robert to reconsider their posture. With the feeling of change that permeates the hotel and the community, he realizes that resisting the transformation could cost not only his position on the Grand Windsor, but also his reputation in the hotel sector. Robert knows he needs to adapt or risk being on the sidelines of the new age Ethan is inaugurating. In the following months, Grand Windsor begins to gain prominence in the media. Stories about the hotel spread, not only for its luxury, but also for the inclusive and innovative philosophy that now permeates its operations. Guests are attracted not only to the high-quality services, but for the sense of belonging and welcoming that the hotel offers. Ethan receives awards and recognition for his initiatives, becoming an example to be followed in the hotel industry. In an award ceremony, when receiving recognition for his contributions to the community and industry, Ethan is thrilled. He reflects on how it all began, the humiliation he suffered, and the challenges he faced. If we have no empathy and compassion for others, we are losing the essence of what we do, he says in his speech. Grand Windsor is not just a hotel. It is a space where everyone can feel valued and respected. At the end of the ceremony, Ethan realizes that what began as a battle against prejudice became a movement of inclusion and positive change. He is grateful for every person who supported him, from his team to the guests, who together changed the hotel narrative. The way ahead will not be free of challenges, but the certainty that he is not alone motivates him to move on. Given all this, Ethan understands that the true Grand Windsor legacy will not be just a luxurious hotel, but a symbol of inclusion, diversity, and respect, where everyone has a voice and time. He smiles by imagining the future and the possibilities that await the hotel and its community, aware that the journey only started and that each step further will be a step towards a better world. How hospitality can be transformative. Ethan walks the hotel corridors, greeting guests and staff with smiles and gratitude. He reflects on how each challenge has strengthened him and prepared him to lead this change. The hotel has become a reference not only in luxury, but also in inclusion, with its philosophy inspiring other establishments. At a table at the reception, a sign displays the sentence, "Here, everyone is welcome." Ethan knows that together they will build a lasting legacy, a real home for everyone. If you watched here, comment, "I watched the end," and share your reflections on the history of Ethan and the Grand Windsor. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this. Your participation is fundamental so that we can continue to create content that touches the heart and change lives. Click on the final screen video that now appears to find out more about exciting and impactful stories. Thank you for accompanying us on this amazing journey, and see you next time.